Hey guys, how are you today? Sorry, it looks like I'm frowning, but I'm actually not. The sun is in my eyes, so I'm squinting, and of course, it looks that way. So, I promised to get back to my life story. My dad's family consisted of two girls and two boys. He was the second to the last brother. He had two older sisters and an older brother and a younger brother. Anyways, his sister had six boys and one girl. They're all living at this moment. His next sister only had one girl, and his older brother had four boys, and his younger brother had a boy and a girl. And of course, my family I told you about. But I'm not trying to bore you here, but just telling you my whole life story. So anyways, I guess around about 15 years old, I really wasn't a bad kid. My mom used to tell me that all the time. When I was a baby, I was the best baby. And as I grew older, I still was a good kid, you know. I never did wrong. I never had the police come knocking at the door for me or anything. So my mom would always compliment me on that I was a good son. I guess I waited till my later years in life to change her mind about that, but she still says that I'm good, but I do make mistakes just like anybody else, and I'm glad that she forgives me. I've done many things in my past that are skeptical, but I'm always trying to improve myself some way or another. So when I was 15, I started working at a place called Revco Drugstore, and I worked there stocking the shelves. Marcia was the manager slash druggist, and Buddy was the assistant manager slash druggist. And I had a crush on a girl. Her name was Lori Murphy. She used to come in there and develop pictures, and Buddy would always call me over to the counter and have me look at her pictures after he developed them. She showed a lot of like birthday parties and things like that. She had six sisters, and this old guy was their father. I don't even know if he actually was the father of them or what. Because of my shyness, I never really did talk to her like that. I think I said hi a couple of times, but I was so shy I couldn't say anything to her. And I don't know what happened with me. I guess I didn't have the confidence. I lacked confidence to approach girls like that. But like I said, when I hit 20, I got out of that. Excuse me. So anyways, I turned 16. I worked several places. I worked in the mall. I worked at McDonald's for a little while, closing at nighttime. And I met another girl named Kim Fisher, and she was very different, and she came back to me after leaving a few days and said that she had family problems or whatever, and I never saw her again. There was a girl at work, and I can't think of her name, but I was interested in her, and the two managers were bull dykes, and they wanted to get her into lesbianism. So I don't know what happened with her and I. And then I met this girl named Tia. She was a beautiful light-skinned black girl from New Jersey. And she had a boyfriend named Danny as well as me. And my mom, because of that, I guess, because I took her home with me, my mom said that she thought that I would probably marry a black girl, which it didn't happen, but it really doesn't matter to me. I don't have a skin color preference or race preference or anything like that. I've always been fond of black girls. I've always been fond of Asians especially, Hispanics. I really have had less white girlfriends than anybody you could probably think of. I had like 2 in high school, and that was it. So we go on to 17. Because of my dad's kidney disorder, he got a kidney transplant, and I talked to them about quitting school. So I ended up leaving my high school and going to Seminole Community College and getting my GED. So I actually, quote unquote, graduated before my class did, but you know, it's the same thing because it's an equivalent, so there's no real big, huge difference in it. I just lacked a lot of credits going into my senior year that I would have had to stay probably 2 years and go to summer school just to make up all the credits that I didn't have. They kept raising them while I was in. When I went in 9th, they raised them, I think, by 3 or 4. And then by the time I made it to my senior year, they had raised them up about 6 altogether. And, of course, I went through what they call work experience, which is 2 hours of the school day. I would actually go to work instead of being in a classroom getting any credit, which was not really a good thing for me, but I did learn how to work during that time, so I could say that much. But I worked at a place called ABB, C.F. Brown in Bavaria, and I can't remember where else I worked, but anyways, we would get bused from our school out to our jobs, and it was quite an experience. There was only like 5 people in my class, so it wasn't a very big classroom, but anyways, I did that, and when I turned 18, I planned to go to work, and my parents pretty much told me I had to anyways. So I went looking for a job, but most of the jobs that I could try to locate were not really good jobs, and they didn't want to pay much of anything, and I guess I thought way too much of myself to take a low paying job, so I didn't do it. And my brother was bothering me one day, and I hit him, and my dad just took me and packed my bags up, and off we went to McDonald's, where I was working at the time. That was a very rough time in my life because I didn't understand why he had done what he did. As I said before, my dad was a fair person, but at that time I really didn't feel the fairness in him. But I did, however, forgive him for doing that, and I told him I understood it as a father that I am now before he passed away. So any case, as the summer came to a close, I signed into the Army, and I went through basic training. The first day I got there, boy, I was terrified. I seen all these, drill sergeants. Our first drill sergeant was a Korean guy, and he was real short, but he was scary looking. And I can remember lying in bed having to go to the bathroom, and I was too afraid to get up to go. That was in the reception depot before I ever went to meet my real drill sergeant. So anyways, I can remember the very last day before they took us over to meet our drill sergeants, and they all came out and said, you're going to have one last call, because when you're in basic training you won't be able to call your parents or anything like that. So they gave us a chance to call our folks, and I called my mom and dad. Of course, I talked to my dad first, and I told him that I was wanting to come back home already. I only had been there like 3 or 4 days, I guess, because we had to wait at the reception station to get a full battery. So anyways, once we had all the people that we needed in our battery, they took us to the phones, and like I said, I talked to my dad, and then I talked to my mom. Well, when I heard my mom's voice, I started crying, and I told her how much I disliked what I was into and where I was going with this whole thing. I just didn't understand it, but she did kind of comfort me a little bit at that time. And after I got done with the phone call, I went into a line. They had us line up, and they pulled this cattle truck in. I don't know if you've ever seen a cattle truck, but it looks like a big old trailer with 2 little windows, one in the front and one in the back. And it has a bunch of like metal poles inside. No seats at all, so we had to stand there and hold on to these poles while we did a million turns. It felt like you couldn't see anything outside, so we didn't even know how far we were from the reception station or anything. I think it took about 12 minutes to get there from the reception station. And when we got there, we pulled up, and the drill sergeant in the front, he was a big guy, but he was only like 23 years old. He had this big old jaw full of red man in his mouth. I'll never forget it. And he says, all you skank buckets on this truck better get off. You have 14 seconds to get off, and 13 and a half are already gone. You haven't moved yet. And all these guys, and I was right next to the door, so you can imagine this. All these guys just started running out. And there was about 3 steps to the ground, and they had like a metal staircase there for you to go down and then off of the trailer. And I was the second to the last guy out, even though I was right next to the door. And the guy behind me on my second step, he put his foot on my heel, and I fell, and he fell behind me, and both of our bags went flying. He got up and grabbed my bag and took off running and left me with his. So we go through all the rigmarole, this, that, and the other thing. The drill sergeants are talking to us, what they're expecting of us, this, that. And then they want to go through our bags. So the drill sergeant says right up front, he says, if anybody has any problem with their bag, raise their hand now. So I raised my hand up. He said, what is it, Private? You already have a problem? And I said, yes, drill sergeant, the guy on the truck took my bag and ran off with it. So he said, what was his name? And I just looked at the bag I had, and it had his name right on it. So I told him. He said, give me a few minutes, guys. I'll be right back. He goes running off. He comes back with my bag. Then he takes my bag, opens it up, and throws everything out into the dirt and the grass and everything. Says, now, Private, you're going to have to learn how to keep track of your things and not let others take off with them. So go pick all that stuff up and get the dirt and all that off of your things and put it all back in that bag nice and neatly. So I did. And then we had to take it all back out again. And it was a mess. But I had everything in my bag, so I was good. So then he says, all right, guys, I'm going to march you up to the chow hall. This is what I want you to do. Listen closely. You will get in the line. You will tell those people what you want to eat. If you are a fat body, you will not be eating hamburgers. You will be not be eating this. You will be not eating that. You will not be drinking milk or this or that. I wasn't a fat body at that time. I weighed, 126 pounds soaking wet. So I could eat anything I want. But there were a couple of guys in there that were really big. And he caught the one guy, Komatsu was his name. He caught him eating a hamburger one day. He just went on and on. He made him do grass drills. Grass drills are like rapidly doing certain types of exercise and that, and it's no fun at all, trust me. So he said, once you get your food, you have 5 minutes to eat your food and be out here. I'm going to show you where. He walked us all to the screen door. He said, right out here. He pointed out to the area he wanted us at. So I get my food, I eat it, I gobbled it all up, and I went outside. Apparently I was fast. A little bit too fast. And I seen a couple of guys that I recognized from my platoon. And so they were running up the street like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I started following them. I ran too, all the way back to the barracks. We got there and they weren't there. My jaw just about hit the floor. So we went to go running back, right? Too little, too late. They're already marching up the street. We had to sit there and wait for them. There was about 6 of us. And that was not a good sight because drill sergeant, he broke off from the group and let our assistant drill sergeant continue. And he came over to us hollering and screaming. Now this guy, he was probably about 5'4". Browning was his name, Drill Sergeant Browning. He was a sergeant first class. So that's an E7 pay grade. And he was not happy, and he also chewed Red Man, but he had the God's ugliest face in the world, and he was always like frowning at you, and that's why I said earlier, I apologize for the frown, but he always was frowning. His eyebrows looked like he was mad all the time. just by the way that they went. And he went on and on and on. I don't know that I've heard anybody yell quite as much as him and as loud as he did. And we did grass drills for, I don't know, the better part of 6 hours that night. And then after that, he told us that we had the first 4 weeks of KP duty. So KP duty consists of washing big pots and pans and dishes and peeling potatoes and things like that. So it wasn't really a fun scene. And that was my first day only. All of what I just told you. And I only got in trouble one other time, aside from somebody else getting us in trouble, you know, because if somebody makes a mistake, everybody pays for it. If you've seen the movie Full Metal Jacket, you'll understand the Gomer Pyle. Anyways, the time that I made a mistake was I went on my 15-mile road march, and they give you a dummy machine gun. It's just a piece of plastic with metal on the end of it. It looks just like an M16, but it's not. Can't fire it. There's no mechanism in it at all. Anyways, I had to use the bathroom. The only one from my platoon that was there was the second lieutenant. And they told us ahead of time, do not put your weapon down. Do not have hands on your weapon. You make sure you have your hands on your weapon at all times. Well, I had to pee, guys, you know. So I put my weapon in between my legs, and the second lieutenant came up and grabbed my rifle from behind me. And so we get in line, and the drill sergeant says, anybody that's without a weapon, please come over here. And I was like, oh, here we go again. So I got grass drills during that time too. I can't say that I deserved it, but you know how it is. Anyways, it was a good time being in the Army. In basic training also, going to church was a positive thing for me, because some of the other people that went to church also, that had already been through what we were planning to go through, told us a few secrets that we should have known. One of them was what they were going to do to us as far as CS gas was concerned. So this guy says, if they get you in a horseshoe position where everybody's in a horseshoe, grab your mask and get it ready to put on. So we were marching down the dirt road, and we came up onto this, it looked like a blockhouse. And they said, everybody gather around and get in like a horseshoe type of formation. So I'm like, oh, here we go. So I put my hand on my mask. I opened up the buttons so that I could actually put my hand on my mask. And probably about 10 seconds later, here they come, and they threw like 5 or 6 gas canisters in on us. I seen guys running down the street and everything else. It was funny, but I already had my gas mask on. I think it was Private Benitez that gave the gas signal, and everything went good with me on that one. So then they take you into this blockhouse, and you're in a room at first, and the drill sergeant sat us all down and said, okay, listen up. if any of you feel like you have gas leaking into your mask at this moment in time, please raise your hand. And guess who raised their hand? Me. I raised my hand. What is it, Private? Why you got your hand up? I said, I don't think it's sealed, Drill Sergeant. Yeah, don't worry about it. Go ahead in anyway. So they brought us in. We had to put our hand on the shoulder of the guy in front of us. I actually have my hand on the drill sergeant's shoulder because he went in there too, but he didn't take his mask off, but he told us to take ours off. So he made a complete circle around these 3 55-gallon drums of CS gas, and this room was totally blocked off. There was no gas that was going to get out from in there, and it was something terrible. But it did clean your sinuses out and everything else. I can remember getting out, and everything that was in my chest and in my nose and everything, it all came out. But what they have you do is spit it all out into your helmet, the metal part of your helmet, because you got a liner and then you have your metal helmet. So spit it all out into this metal helmet, and it was really something else. But it was all right, and I don't regret anything that went on. Anyways, when I get back, I'm going to talk about all the relationships that I had in my life, and just a couple of other things here and there, and hopefully I'll be done with that after that. I just want to tell you all that I love you so much. Love yourself, love God, and please love each other. Till the next time, guys. Thank you. Bye.